And good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter again. And the ascendant as we speak is right on Venus in Leo, that is stationing to go retrograde. This means she's going to stay pretty much where she's at until she's going to go retrograde and go to 24, 23, and so on degrees Leo respectively. The midheaven is Venus ruled and applying to conjunct Uranus. So Venus, Uranus, and in the background we kind of have this Eris at about 24, 25 Eris, which is very much trining this Venus. And that is what we also should be understanding about this retrograde. So Venus retrograde in Leo. Venus retrograde to begin with, let's do it in compartmentalized. Venus, connections, values, beauty, connecting things, so connections, values, beauty, cars as well is Venus, jewelries, sensuality, fertility, and the voice, music, creative arts. Retrograde. So revising all of the above, revising our values, revising our appearances, revising where we put our energy, revising how we use our voices, what we speak about, our values, what we buy, and to some degree what we invest in. And the retrograde itself is the story of Inanna turning into Ereshkigal, okay? So Inanna from Rook is basically Venus when she is a, I think, morning star. And she is pretty up in the sky. She's the goddess of both war and of passion. So goddess of beauty, of love and war, and is very much intricate, but also very much in her own light, very much shining. And during the retrograde, this is Venus going into the underworld. So Inanna basically is curious to see how do people in the worlds below the world that she's living in live. And the ruler of this world is Ereshkigal. And Ereshkigal basically gives her an experience of what it's like to be there. So the journey for Inanna, when she wants to see Ereshkigal, which is her sister, she has to strip an item of clothing on her journey. And then as she's completely stripped, she's sentenced to death. She's somehow saved by, I think, 2 angels. I'm not sure like about the entire myth. It's been told in so many ways by so many cultures. And her life is eventually spared. But today I woke up kind of like with Venus stationing. And the first Twitter, I pay attention to the Twitter post of the day because it will usually be connected with the theme that I already woke up with. And that was a person that I really much appreciate, shared very important message. It's like they say, I am sick of trying to explain why people don't just walk out of abusive relationship, or how did they choose to be with this person, and so on, and all the intricacy around that. Then of course I wrote, my comment and so on. But immediately I thought about Ereshkigal as the victim. And the situation of many, not only women, okay? Not only women. But definitely here it is a story of 2 women. So we need to honor this myth too. And basically this woman thinking, okay, what about those victims of the world? And as she comes to meet Ereshkigal, she's basically experiencing the state of victimhood, of being stripped out of everything that she could hold as relating to her dignity. Okay, and then as she is still finding dignity in this situation, she's been sentenced to death. This is the experience that the Ereshkigal gives her. It's like, if you want to understand the underworld, this is what it is. Okay, it's kind of like an initiation of Inanna by Ereshkigal as she goes into the underworld. Okay, and you can see how this very, if you know about Eris, how it very much trines Eris. Um, and this is every story of every Venus retrograde. Okay, this is why I'm going compartmentalized. I'm going to build up the pieces and then I'm going to bring them together. And then if I still have the voice to do that, then I'm going to look at the transits. But the thing is, when we go through Venus retrograde, we go through stripping what we think about what a victim is, how a victim looks like, or about even calling somebody. It's like, are they a victim or are they a survivor? The image that I had when I was thinking about the Ereshkigal story about Inanna losing her clothes was actually the Holocaust. And the Holocaust, I'm not talking about like Jews, I'm talking about everybody that went through this, okay? Which is everybody. Even if you are the most Irish in the world, they would pick up at your this, at your that, or somebody said you had this relative that is Jewish, that is Romani, that is this, that is that, and poof, you go, out you go, okay? It was before the Holocaust was about racism, it was about clearing up who is ever not with the ruling gang. And if you understand that essentially, then I think it will be a lot easier to understand what went in the world, what is going on in the world, and unfortunately a part of the predictions that we have for the world in coming years. So if you think not about gender, not about race, not about color, not about this, about there's some ruling gang, and then they want to purify everything to make sure that they will continue to rule. And so everybody is, then they put racism, they put sexism, it's all bullshit. It's not merit. It's actually the desire to basically survive when people experience their own existence is this is so meta going on this story, but their own experience is that they have to fight for being, fight for their life, fight for this, fight for that constantly. So they just say Mein Kampf and they do it. Okay, that's just it. And it is all people at all times, of all genders, of all skins, of all religions, of all cultures. And this is something that if we get now, will be a lot easier to move forward. How do we create a situation where we are safe and feel safe and are provided and do feel connected? And that's genuine for entire humanity. Okay, so tolerance is one way. To some degree, there was attempt with private property or some sort like autonomy, so that you can retreat to your own land, to your own this, to your own that, and have your level of independency and come out to the world when you feel ready to do so, and all those things. But there are more needs. There are emotional needs of validation and acknowledgement, to feel able and powerful. I saw actually a tweet from a psychologist that I didn't agree with everything he said, but he talked about men, and he said that the desire for men to feel powerful is not just to control others, it's like to know that you can provide for your family. We should not deprive them of the ability to feel that they can provide for their family. And it's true, when people cannot provide, and I guess a lot of women dealing with that too, as single parents, as this or that, you cannot provide. You need to be respected. You need to feel that you are able, it's in your power to support yourself. Okay, so to be in a position of power, not to power over somebody, but self-empowerment. It's not a bad thing. We should not scrutinize this desire or this wish. So this is something I really agree with. And yeah, here we got Venus retrograde, which is, how is the Venus of the underworld, how is the Venus that's been stripped of her everything that she held on to as holding her dignity, or certain things that she held on to as holding her dignity. Okay, it's Venus in context here. If we went through this, everything of it, no, this is Holocaust. But the reason I was thinking about the Holocaust is because people were basically going naked into the showers, okay? That of course were about to kill them. So they had to strip themselves of clothing. They had to pinch their cheeks to show that they are working. When I was in Netherlands and I was in between houses, I still, I channeled, I this, I that. And when I came to the municipality, I said, okay, I need, I have a certified profession, I have a degree, yeah, and I can work. And there was some nice person say, yes, look, of course, we have support for businesses, for this, for that. And they had meetings in a million years. But as I was saying that, I could not help but thinking about those people that were pinching their cheeks. I was fooling both myself that I would not completely collapse the minute I get the time to rest, because I just went to going out of violence. And I could not think, and it's not because I don't want, I have desire to do things to make a life and making a living. But then the people that were pinching their own cheeks to show we can work, okay, save our lives, spare our lives, we can work, we can make something of ourselves, we can this, we can that. And how we think that was only in the Holocaust, when we saw that literally people pinch their cheeks to see, oh, we have color in our cheeks, we are able to work, don't destroy us, put us in the working camps and not in the destruction camps. And how it is still practiced today. Whether it's by refugees, whether it's if you can work, then they say you are a working immigrant, you're not refugee. Okay, but if you cannot work, then of course you die. So, and you're expected to work, even you say you went out of trauma, you went out of violence, you say, I don't blame anybody, the world is crazy, people are crazy. Person that I know for 10 years gone mad because of the circumstances. I just need to be in a place where I am safe, that's it. Not mad at anybody, not accusing anybody. I just want to live my life. And the only way that people can conceive of this is okay, are your cheeks red? Can you be hired to Arbeitsmarktvrij? And it's Arbeitsmarktvrij. Okay, it's not labor is supposed to be nourishing for the person who works. Okay, labor is rehabilitation, but you do something that you like and so on and so forth. And that you're able, and you're doing it in good health. If you're overworking yourself, then you're no longer healthy, even if you're doing the thing you like the most. We just need to look at Beyonce having difficulty to perform because she hurt her knee so much so that she had to tone down the dances, which she never did before, and it's not the first time she hurts her leg. And then people going to dance at, you don't break my soul, and scrutinizing her for not dancing enough. Okay, the way she dances when she hurt her leg is nobody dances like this even still, but still she was scrutinized by people who came to hear you don't break my soul. Okay, I quit the 9 to 5, don't overwork me, and how the ridicule of the society is still existing. And in this point where people go naked into the showers, they're stripped of everything that held them as dignified. Okay, their beards are cut, their hair is cut, their nails are cut, their clothes are taken away from them. You take nothing with you to death, right? Even if they bury you with all these items, there is something, all of this stay here in the physical. And then they are sentenced to death. So unlike in Nana's life, their life was not spared. So they were stripped of everything they could hold them as dignified. If you think about people who are of any religion, okay, or any tradition, even if you are, a gay man with certain, disability, okay, then, or a trans person or whatnot, then visibility is a part of you. The way that your gender expression even is a part of you. Okay, so it's not just the religion where people have to cover themselves and wear a scarf and wear this and wear that, and they were stripped of all of this and even from their beards, all the things that signify being humble, being modest, having dignity. But also, if you think about even, trans atheist, trans person, so and so, being stripped out of any visual appearance that could tell who they are, and then being sentenced to death. This is the Ereshkigal experience. It's like, do you want to know what it's like in the underworld? Do you want this initiation? This is the experience. You're being stripped of everything that you are, and you learn that you are a divine being, even without all of this. Even when you meet the divine, okay? Stripped of all makeup, stripped of all things, then you are a divine being. Then they put you to death. You're being sentenced to death. And this is way before World War II, way before genocides in modern times, way before Me Too, way before everything. It is a myth that goes with the generation so much so between two women. The dignified woman and the woman who has been stripped of her dignity and is still divine being. Okay, the dignified woman meets the victim through experience. It's a very intricate transit, just Venus retrograde, and it happens every 2.5 years or so. Okay, this is humanity. Really, just hold on a second. For this is what we go through as humanity on this planet. Every 2.5 years or so. And if you think it's just women, no, it's not just women. You could be a man and think, okay, I'm with this woman is so dignified, is so this, is so that, Venus retrograde, and she's like, she wants to have an orgy with 2 of your best friends and doesn't see anything wrong with that. It's like, of course I will be attracted to them. They're here all the time and they remind me of you because you are all like together and I want to be with all of you. What's the problem? And now you have this, Madonna whore kind of like, okay, my dignified significant other wants to have this certain experience that I associate with women who are whores, who are dirty, who are corrupted, who are this, who are that. And then it's kind of like the Madonna and the whore meet and merge in this situation. And it's very difficult. Or alternatively, a woman that you deemed as, oh, she's like this, she's corrupted, she's, how did the offender in academia say, Nashim kalot dat, is meant women that are like, not easy women, but women that their mind is like, how should I say it? Like that their mind is not, is not corrupted, like women who are not intelligent or something like this, and because of this you can have, like, this is rape if you can have sex with her because she's not intelligent and you are raping her, right? Then if she's this woman that you say, why are you sleeping with her? But is this notion of, hey, these women are like this or these women are like that, easy women, and then this easy woman says, no, I don't like this. For women, for people who have affairs, they can meet this a lot, even if you are a man. You have affair, you're just somebody adores you, perhaps in the way that your partner currently doesn't, or your partner is busy doing other things, and just someone showers you with this attention. So maybe you try to initiate something and you feel drawn to them, and now suddenly they become like your wife. And they have criticism, and they have things to say, and they have this and they have that. It was like, oh my gosh, I was only in love with this person because they were viewing me as pure. Now they're like my wife. They're criticizing me. They are making me feel bad. They have this to say. They have everything that I ran away from at home. I meet with this lover whom I thought was easy person. So now the Madonna and the whore meet. Okay? And so with this story, it's both an experience for the women, and it's also experience for the men around them. Now, before we even bring Eris and the gender, gender as it is, not as we categorize it, all of us, okay, including me. I'm of 2 genders, but I also have these categories in my head that I can conceive of things in a certain way, and I need to learn other ways. Now we talk about Eris, before Eris, Leo. This happening in the sign of a luminary. So there are two luminaries, there's the moon and then the sun. The moon is about projection and what we project. And so moon is a reflection of something. With the sun is how we shine and our ego. They're not all that different because what we project eventually is our ego, okay? And so it's difficult to differentiate, okay? And so we will have projections with the sun because the moon reflects stuff. So it reflects the sun back to itself. But it is silly to think that the human being that has all the planets in their chart is doing only reflection. Okay, I'm just reflecting you the way you are. No, you are not. You also have a sun, you also have an ego. Or is doing just solar, being solar. I'm dignified, I am respected, I am this, I am that. Look, I don't sleep with men unless they are married to me. Okay, that was already a reflection. It was already something that you're reflecting back to society, based on society. Like you're already doing moon, you're not solar. Okay, and Nine of Wands Palas wrote something very beautiful about Venus retrograde that's related to that. She said that the Leo placement, they feel a certain place in society. Society has the need to admire, to appreciate, and even to scrutinize. Okay, to hold, to like society needs celebrities, leaders, kings, and so on and so forth. There's already my interpretation on it of it. And the Leo placements, they just feel in that place. So whether you love them or hate them, they are doing their role and they're happy to do this role. Okay, they're happy to be hated by you, they're happy to be loved by you, they're happy for you to be engaged with them. And this is what people consider as, narcissistic. We must honor that this is the equation. Okay, we cannot tackle the wrongdoing of our leaders, of our this, of our that, without the notion that even by holding them accountable, this is a form of engagement. And the pros and cons of that, okay? It's like, oh, now you hate me, now this, now that, and now you have a rapport there, okay? This is why when people recommend certain, going, how do you say, gray rock, something like that, to go no contact, to go no this, not engage with blah, blah, blah. And again, it has its pros, it has its cons, because if all of society completely disengages, now we are banning a certain person, and now they feel in such tremendous isolation that will cause tremendous bad effect on society. How do we hold people accountable without allowing ourselves to be dehumanized by them and without dehumanizing them? Okay, Venus in Leo is all of that. Fame, money, and power. Taking the crown. And as she goes retrograde, what we deal with is a particular part of visibility that holds value. Okay, how is my appearance serving my values? So it is very potent for fashion declarations. Okay, but in retrograde, we've been stripped of it. On a superficial level, and superficial, I say it in the best sense possible, because this is a transit you definitely want to be going through superficially. Okay, in the best sense possible, you're reconsidering your makeup. Okay, in the best sense possible, you're kind of wondering, oh, maybe I should not remove my hair from the armpit, or maybe I should remove my hair from the armpits, or the way I was associating hair in this way is not fit for now. It's like This is if this is what you go through in this transit, believe me, this is a blessing. It's okay. It's allowing yourself to be a bit embarrassed sometimes in order to have this trial and error. And that's the stage that you want to go through with this. I seen a beautiful short by two Norwegian ladies that are married and having each other's baby. So before that, one of them was bleeding into her pants in a mall, and her spouse, what she did, she did not go buy her new jeans or to save her the embarrassment. What she did go is to go to supermarket and buy ketchup. And then she put some ketchup on her pants and said, let's be embarrassed together. Okay? And so Venus retrograde kind of rethinks and reconsiders. It's like, instead of saving you the embarrassment, why don't we get embarrassed together? Why don't I allow myself to be embarrassed or to do things that are awkward or to be seen in awkward situations? It's also about vulnerability. So, and how that can be something that is, instead of trying to hide what happened, actually celebrating this as like, hey, this shit can happen. We can bleed into our pants. Normalize the fact that nobody wants this to happen. Nobody does this on purpose. Nobody's wanting to bleed on your chairs on purpose. But still, this happens. Okay? And that can be a part of this Venus. If this is how you go through this, well, yeah, you've done it. Like, you're both lucky and you've done it right. But it's also, if that's not what it is for you, you're not to blame for it. As there really is this notion of visibility, vulnerability. How am I being seen by the world becomes an important issue. Okay? And unfortunately, when people are victims, they need assistance and also they need validation. One of the things that I'm still laughing about and experiencing pain at the same time was when I was, Me Too veteran, then it was striking the most because I could not ignore communicating to society about this. Okay, I could no longer not speak out. It's not that things like this did not happen before. It's just that something came into fruition and now it had to be exposed. And of course, I was in Leo when it was exposed. But the thing is that I was laughing at myself being, a scientifically oriented. So I was saying I'm scientifically oriented, and the scientific discourse consists of disagreements, of not being sure about something, of casting doubt. And here I am needing to be validated. Now, not only that, when you have trauma, when you are hurt, then sometimes you remember, sometimes you don't remember, sometimes this, sometimes that's like, I needed to be validated for not my experience, but the reality of things, which is what the case is in violence. You need not the experience to be validated. It's like, oh, my mother when I was 3 years old, my mother abandoned me. And then for like a very long time, she was not at home. And then you find out it was 3 hours. And she just went for what she thought would be a cup of coffee. And then her neighbor had some crisis. So she was going through it with him and then going back to her baby. And the baby feels tremendous abandonment. This is usually psychotherapy. And so you validate the experience of a person while allowing the adjustments on the view on reality so that the person can understand they were never really abandoned, but there was no way to facilitate this. But when actually violence happens, you need the validation for the reality, not the validation for the experience. And the entire healing model is so incompatible with that that you can't even. And I was laughing at myself being in a position where I need validation. I need people to believe the reality that was, that I don't exactly remember how things were. And I'm like, this is against every scientific logic and I understand that scientifically, if I look at research, and I also see in practice what helps me is like, oh, when I'm validated, when people say, oh, then this happened. Now I have the time to say, okay, this happened. Okay, now how do I move on? What do I do about this? Okay, how do I delve? Okay, or probably the people who hurt me, what they were hurt themselves, and I'm not their healer, and I need to heal, and we need this. It's like now I can build on that. This happened. I can build on that and pursue my life and say, okay, what do we do to create what I do want? But it was very funny, this notion where I needed validation, which is a very Venus need, especially in Leo, um, for something that I have memories, and then I forget things, and then I look at it this way, and then I look at it that way. And I'm like, I need people to validate my reality. There's some dissonance going with this. And then when we do get these validations, it actually helps. So and it's also good for the offenders. Like, you don't want me being vengeful, being this, feeling like you don't want me in Mein Kampf state, right? Even if you hurt me, you don't want me Hitler. Like, so it's like so that both people can heal and change. You do need this validation and recognition, and you do need to speak up. So and then as you speak up, there's the narrative goes like this, and this is very intricate and very problematic, very painful. It's incredibly painful. And so Venus in Leo is something like that. Okay, Venus was, if I'm not mistaken, retrograde in Leo during the 2017, when the Me Too thingy, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if she was in Leo back then or not in Leo. But this is Venus in Leo. It needs to be vulnerable and adored and famous. Now is a victim. We really need to honor these Leo Venuses, because if not for the actresses that were okay with being vulnerable and being open and say, look at my face. I am the woman who was sexually harassed. I am the woman who got out of the industry because I did not agree to sleep with so-and-so. I am this woman. It is me. It happened to me. Okay? Only a woman that can withstand in her vulnerability in front of the camera and is not natural, but is already accepting of this position, could do the Me Too. Only these women could do this. Okay? So I wrote the satire, so they were in front of camera. Yeah, I was not in front of camera. I was later in front of camera, but I was not doing it in the way that they were doing it, because I did not have the skill and the ability to do this. No, and we own a lot of these women. So we had to really reconsider. And then they, of course, were blamed for desiring fame. But if they did not have the desire to fame and the desire to be acknowledged and the desire to perform open-hearted and vulnerable in front of a crowd, we would never get to be visible as victim of sexual violence. Okay, Venus in Leo retrograde is where the invisible woman and the visible woman are the same woman. So think about figures that did not have Venus in Leo, but or maybe they did, like Marilyn Monroe. She was a sex symbol, but she was also a survivor of child sexual abuse. She was a sex symbol who had her first orgasm at the age of 36. And this intricacy that can really come about in Leo Venus going retrograde. Now you find another part of this person. Now there's another vulnerability, there's another exposure of the Venusian. And this Venusian exposes the places where they were victim or they survived violence. Okay, this notion of I'm a victim, I'm a survivor. People insisting on saying, no, I was a victim. Can we hold the spec that it is okay that you were the victim of something? Or do we have to make of it survival? Do we have to make of it, this masculine ableist notion? It's like, no, I was the victim in this situation. It's difficult to acknowledge this, but it's happened. And we should not shame people for being victims of certain situations. This is the more layered, the more deep, the more profoundly annoying aspect of having to go through Venus retrograde in Leo, because you're basically, your victim state is being very visible. Like in Scorpio, you might be going through this invisibly, and it will not be exposed to people, and it's just an internal change that you're going through with you that is really, profound. But then you could be feeling isolated and vulnerable and not really be able to communicate and not really be able to make the change on the outside world, or yes, make this change, but in other means. With Leo, it's we change the way we look at things because things are visible. Oh, this is the pedophile that were sex offenders, like, oh, that's their face. Okay. And and you think about, there was this is already Eris, but it's also, as we progress into this visibility of the victim, which is also visibility of the offender, and the difficult to know who is who, okay? Because it looks like, if Me Too is an easy example here because it's so close. It's like, oh, she is just a hoe that wanted to get promoted through the pants of someone. And this is how you look at it. It's like, did she have any other available way to get promoted in our economy, regardless of her talent? Okay, or maybe she has talent, she doesn't even know this. And what happens to women who say no? Okay, so this thinking of the notion that we had about who are these women that had, how did we view Monica Lewinsky? Monica Lewinsky today, she already understands she was a Me Too veteran. And that is very difficult for people to wrap their heads around because there is intricacy to the situation. Okay? So, and I said it when I did the episode on Monica Lewinsky, I said, I asked myself, in the coming of the years, where I actually took my power back, but I wrote my satire, when I did a lot of things that changed a lot of things, I was thinking, okay, now from a more position of power relative to the situation, is there something that I need to repent? Did I abuse power? Did I this? And the only thing that came up was, no, Monica Lewinsky is also a Me Too veteran, because I literally said, I'm not your Monica Lewinsky, you're not my Bill Clinton, thinking that Monica Lewinsky does not see herself as a victim. That was pre-Me Too. And of course, I deeply, deeply, deeply regret and repent that, because I didn't know that, yes, what I believed about Monica Lewinsky when I was in high school was true. Okay, I'm 39 years old. Okay, in 2017, I was 32 or 33. So you can imagine that what was it like for high school self? What was it like for being in high school in the 1990s, being exposed to this case, understanding she's probably a victim here, but not even having the words to speak it up or the crowd to speak it to, including within your closest family and including within the victim herself. Okay, and then kind of like discovering that, oh, Monica Lewinsky understands she's Me Too veteran right now. So at least I'm glad to hear that. And that is exactly those experiences of Venus retrograde in Leo. It's changing our point of view on what we deemed as, how does a victim look? How does a victim act? What is the face of a person who is hurt by society? And here with Venus in Leo, there's also this notion of respect. What is a dignified woman? What is a respectable woman? And I want to tell another such story. I was one of my workplaces a long time ago. That doesn't matter which. There was this woman who was very Leo woman, okay? And she paid a lot of attention to her appearance, to be attractive but classy. And she was, okay? And also in the dating game, kind of like to play the game and so on. And she met some guy. They were very attractive. They had sex. She got pregnant, but she was not ready for pregnant. Neither did she see him as the father of her babies. Okay, then her own father, she could not know that she needs to go through an abortion. So fortunately for her, she had a good friend who even offered to marry her and raise the child as if it was his child. But she eventually went through the procedure of abortion. And this procedure is very humiliating towards women. The assumption on women that go through abortion is, oh, she has been sleeping around, she has been slutty, she has been disrespectful to herself, she's been undignified. So it was very much a very difficult experience for a very young woman who was raised on certain traditional values and believed that, yes, and try to work within the mask of how can I be attractive, be, this shine as a woman, and honor myself and be considered a respectable, be treated with respect. How can I both be attractive and be treated with respect? Okay, so from her age and from her vantage point, what she knew, she had to really like go through this situation where those women that she deemed as sluts, now she was going through these experiences where she is seen, as she comes to abortion, she has to hide it from the father, and she is seen as this supposed, slut, disrespectful woman, corrupted woman, where all she really wanted was to take responsibility and bring a child to the world when she's ready to bring the child to the world, and with the man that she's ready to bring a child to the world. Okay, the soul of the baby, if it's to come with the next time she gets pregnant and wants to keep the baby, it's the soul of the baby will come. If it's the same soul that wants to incarnate, it will come. But she was doing the responsible act for her in her age. Okay, she was not ready to raise a child at this point in her life. It would not be good for the child. So those situations where we think that certain dignified women are women that, and I advise you to practice when you think, what is a dignified, what is a respectable woman? What is your notion of a respectable woman? If you think a respectable woman is a woman that, it's very likely to be challenged during this transit, especially if it's something to do with how she looks and how she acts. Okay, perform. Okay, we think about the performance of a respectable woman. Okay, and that is, or what she does for a living, which is also very, very important for people, to understand. Okay, we had this a lot when we talk about the discourse about red umbrella, not red umbrella, sex work. Is there such thing as sex positive sex work, and so on? How do we treat? And a lot of these discourses is clouded by the notion of what is a dignified woman instead of women's rights. What's actually good for the women, and the glorification of a woman's choice over her body is being done by people that have a lot of interest in making a purchase, and not necessarily genuinely getting at the situation, getting at willing consent, getting at the working situation outside of sex work, being exploitative, also sexually, and tackling the issue. So we can't really know if there is sex positive sex work if we don't have willing consent all across the board, at work and outside of work, in marriage, outside of marriage, okay, with ourselves, with others, and so on and so forth, and the intricacy around that. So all of that is happening in Leo. And again, I'm returning to the place where you could just have it as rebranding yourself, being embarrassed about your looks, something, radically accepting something in your appearance, trying something and then going back from that. It can also mean as be the other way around, where there was a Venus, I think retrograde in Leo, or just Venus in Leo, where I was, it was summertime, I was shooting a video with my face, and I didn't wear anything underneath, I just was shooting my face. What's the problem? Maybe they saw my shoulders. My mama calls me, she's like, Shirley, please make sure you wear something because it doesn't look good. And I said, you know what? I'm going to rebrand myself. It's summertime. I'm going to call myself the nude astrologer. And then I decided not to erase it because I was wearing just a bra because I didn't want to pay attention to where my hand is. And as I'm talking, and you see me, I didn't want to pay attention where my hand is. And there was, I'm half channeling. There was this like attempt to like psychically attack me during broadcasting and kind of put the camera on my, like on my bra, on my, like to show my boobs inside a bra, whatever, if that's your Pornhub. And I didn't like it, so I didn't want to be tackling with this. I didn't want to, and also I didn't want to be thinking about the frame. The whole point of being the nude astrologer is not to have to get dressed, especially for shooting. And then on Twitter, I'm still called, I think, the nude astrologer. And there was a time where my channel was called the nude astrologer. And then I kind of realized that it takes the work, like the whole point was about not having to work on my appearance before I shoot a video that's about astrology. Okay? And the branding is kind of cute and catchy, but after that it was like, to be the nude astrologer, I really have to maintain a brand. Okay, I have to be nude so that you see my shoulders and you see I'm not wearing anything. I have to make sure when my camera is going, so you won't see my boobs or anything. I have to like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of maintenance for something that's just going to be this. Mom says, you gotta wear a shirt, it looks very bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is branding. Like I don't really have to work this hard. I just rebrand myself, and no, it was not working in the same way. So it can actually be, or there was a time where I don't remember, Venus was in Leo, but I was working with makeup and I was talking about sexuality, and then I had enjoyed having like nice photo shoots that look, quite good. And they were quite erotic and quite sexy, even though I didn't necessarily mean that to be. And I kept it. I don't erase my history usually. And that is something that later I said, well, I'm talking about astrology. I don't feel like I want to hone in on sexy me when I talk about this. And it has nothing to do with, dignity or respect. It's kind of like, I feel like I have to play a certain role here that doesn't match up with my content, and that can be completely annoying. So those things, those superficialities where it can just be about, should I look sexy? Or is this the type of sexy that is classy? Or maybe that which I consider not classy is actually more authentic, or actually like this. Or maybe I was paying too much attention to be attractive and how I look and if I'm attractive, and maybe I can just open up the camera and speak. So all these things about visibility. And if you're going through this like this, kind of rethinking what is classy for you, what is dignified for you, what is this, what is that, trying something new, allowing yourself to be ambivalent and embarrassed. This is something I took from Austin Kopuk when he approached this, although I really am not sure what he meant by toxic inclusivity, and I have to admit it caused me to really contract. It's probably an already Venus shade thingy because it's to do with values. What is this reminds me, even when I am this, then I remember, okay, this reminds me that this also happens as Venus is trining Eris. And now we get to the other piece of the puzzle. So first we have Venus retrograde in Leo, and Venus trine in Aries. So who is Eris? And I know that I'm unappointable. I've tried to make appointment twice, if not thrice, to have a very special interview about Eris that I really want in this. Yet it's very difficult to get me to be appointable at this time in my life. So I don't know. Like I'm trying. And back to who is Eris. Eris is basically a planet. I said it 1,000 times, and I'm not getting tired of telling this story. We discovered a planet a bit bigger than Pluto, a bit more distant than Pluto. Okay? And then we said, up until then, everything is okay. Pluto was a planet. We discovered a planet a bit bigger and it's a bit more distant. We called them Eris. And then, out of no reason in particular, the entire scientific community, the astronomical community, decided that Eris is not a planet, and therefore Pluto is not a planet either. If Eris is bigger than Pluto, Eris cannot be a planet. If she's bigger than Pluto, then Pluto is not a planet. And then kind of Eris got her demoting aspect in the astrology. And I'm like, what? And you think this is cosmology, planets, oh, whatever, let them have it. But the thing is, this is science. This is medicine. This is engineering. This is agriculture. This is climate management or climate change. But this is Eris, and you can understand that the native here, me, has a moon squaring Eris natally. So, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the person that I really connected with their persona when I was in Netherlands, I think they had moon around Eris. So I'm not going to check it right now, but I think they had moon around Eris, and they tended to, it was Peter the First, he was tending to the crimes that nobody was looking at. Okay, this is Eris. Eris doesn't understand the world as it is, especially in Eris. Okay, I will not elude myself that I know to differentiate between Eris in Aries and Eris in Pisces, or Eris that will be in Taurus. Because Eris takes 500 something, thank you, I think S.J. Anderson for that, or Dan Waits, one of these. They're both great, watch them. And she takes like 500 years to surround the zodiac. I don't think, like, nobody here is probably alive or was alive to see Eris ingress into Aries. So it's very difficult to differentiate Eris from Aries. So Aries is about self-definition. It's about asserting yourself. It's about starting something new. Now we're in the lunar mansion that starts with 0 degree Aries. The head of the baby, So you think about Eris in Aries, and I can't differentiate the two right now. So Eris in Aries, just the head of the baby. She looks at this world, and Eris is ruling the head. So rationality, the mind, can't like. And she's like, you guys don't make sense. You guys don't make sense. And if you're wondering, and yes, my ascendant is considered Pisces, which I believe is true. Another possibility, if you count differently the daytime, because they just changed the clock, would give me a 17 Aries, which would be between Ceres and Aries. In Aries. Okay, and that would mean that that is also very reasonable. So I don't know. I don't know rectification. Like, I know I'm doing spirit of matter, but I don't rectify to the ascendant. So yeah. So she just looks at the world, and she's like, okay, from your sense, Pluto is a planet. Okay, then I'm a bit, because of his size. Oh, because of his size, okay. Then I'm a bit bigger, so I'm probably a planet. Or like, do you have another definition? Maybe I'm too big. No, you're an asteroid. Okay, I'm asteroid and Pluto is a planet. No. You are not big enough to be a planet. Okay, but Pluto is like a bit small. Oh, yes, you are right. Pluto is now an asteroid. It's no longer a planet. But I don't understand. Before I came here, Pluto was a planet. Yes. And I'm a bit bigger than Pluto. Yes. So why aren't we both like planets? Because you cannot be a planet. You are an asteroid. Why? Okay, why can't an asteroid, like, what is the difference between asteroid and planets? Well, it's the size. Asteroid cannot be this size. I am this size. Yes, you're an asteroid. Okay. But before I arrived, Pluto was a planet. So he could be this size. Yes. I'm trying to understand the scientific reasoning behind this. No, you're anti-intellectual, you hate science, you're evil, you're a flock and a sheep together, you're you know. Now take this to the COVID vaccine discussion, and you can understand how there could not be any scientific discussion on the topic. Science just went we don't even know why. And this is our medicine, this is our bridges, this is our dams, this is our weapon, this is our nuclear bombs. Nuclear bomb, even if it is a nuclear bomb leaking, is very much Pluto, Neptune. But if you think about nuclear bomb, it doesn't matter what, if it's to light a city or to destroy a city, it still leaks. Points for denuclearification. Points in favor of denuclearification of the Earth. So, yeah. This is Eris. This is what you get from Eris. Eris doesn't get why we've been so irrational. And her response is kind of like, wow, these people are stupid. But I'm going to play with that. Let's go transgender man and make him a mass shooter. Now we have a problem. People with vaginas can be mass shooters. Oh, okay. So what is gender? Okay. Let's take the person that the university president sent to donors to meet with them to give money to the university and make her, me, Shirley, a Me Too veteran. Now, what do you think about the victim of sexual harassment by people? Okay. Let's take a man who was given massages as his work and was sexually harassed, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and get him to work with Menachem Golan in a way where he would only be hired if he addresses the pack and is a part of the pack. And the money that he gets paid, he have to set some money aside for the lawsuits for sexual harassments that he performs, Jean-Claude Van Damme, in his words. Okay, those are the type of plays that we have with Eris around. It's very rational, it's very illogical. It plays with our experience in a way that we try to get at the essence of things. That we deconstruct the definition that everything is illogical, okay? And she exposes the irrationality of humankind. Okay? She exposes the irrationality of humankind. Venus retrograde trine in Aries. Venus begins her journey trine in Aries. It's kind of like blending in the dignified and the not dignified, and the woman with the penis and the woman with the man, and the atrocities and the narcissist and the borderline and the this and the that, and all these things are kind of blending. And our view, we really get to be exposed of the irrationality of our thinking about women, about visibility, about fame, about gender, about connections, about money. Okay, Venus is also possessions, about art, about the voice. And we are exposed to all kinds of experience where now I'm comfortable with this, now I'm not comfortable with this. And what is asked of us is to hold that and say, wait, you're right. This is irrational. Wait, you're right. This is irrational. I don't know what I'm doing about this just yet, but definitely it pinpoints at a certain intricacy that I haven't delved into like before. So it definitely has to do with our performance. Okay, so, and you think about like that time where Venus was still trying in Eris, because Eris, like, she stays for a while in where she at. And I was doing the nude astrologer, and I was like, oh, coolies, I won't have to think about, wearing, getting prepared, and wearing something before I press record. Then A, there is surveillance, and B, now I had to work at being the nude astrologer. So I was like, oh no, I give it up. Like, no. Either I will turn off the camera, which now I have the ability to do lives, but either I will make sure that I'm wearing something so that if the camera drifts somewhere, I don't have to worry about this. And there's also this notion of radical acceptance, like, hey, I have a body. Okay. So that was kind of like, oh, that situation I didn't consider when I rebranded myself. Eris kind of brings this into, hey, here's something that can happen with that. Here's something that can happen with that. Or here's something that can happen with that. And she plays with those situations. Okay, when I was even Me Too veteran, it was no longer the Eris because it was already Rahu in Cancer when I went to therapy. But then I had basically, before my psychologist went full method on being an offender, I was submitting myself to understand what makes for a sexuality, willing consent, the sexuality that I'm okay with, that I'm good with, that I'm happy with. And I had astral sex with my psychologist, which we both spoke about, and like it was spoken. It's not that somebody took the shape of something. He told me that it was him. So I was ready to strip off what I thought about things and say, okay, here is data. Data is that I enjoyed that. So that was good for me. Okay. And I'm okay with that. And still now, when I say when he was offended, and it doesn't outrule the times where it was okay for me. It just means that, hey, I deserve to be respected all times, not just a couple of times or for a couple of months, for eternity, whether we sleep or not. So the thing is that there was this intricate play. Where I was trying to see, okay, what bothered me at the academia. It's like, how can I say yes to someone if I cannot say no to someone without that having implication? And then I was wondering about like the age difference and the position difference and decentralization and so on and so forth. But I was like, oh, but I managed to have sex that I enjoyed with my psychologist. So what is going on here? Okay, I asked myself this question. Unfortunately, my psychologist went violent, and that was easily solved. I'm not the Goodell point of do not sleep with your psychologist. It still applies to me. I'm a part of the group that was hurt by that. But at that point, for a while, I was the Goodell point. I was like, hey, I literally I was sitting in the room and going through, there was like 11 things that people who had sex with their psychologist suffer from. And I was going through this list with him and see, oh, suicidation I had even before that. Oh, this I have. Oh, this I don't have. Oh, this I don't experience at all. And that was like the rationale of the conversation. I was trying to see, okay, maybe there's something. What is the essence of things? Because what do I want to keep? What do I want to change? Okay. Venus retrograde in Leo, Trine in Eris is a lot about those things. Trying to understand, was I being irrational? Am I being irrational now? What is is the dogma serving me? Is going out of the dogma serving me, or is just another dogma? It's a very intricate, very confusing time to be alive. And then you asked me what bothered me when I was, victim for my psychologist. I would just say the fact that he said they don't know what energy is, like the fact that I cannot even speak about this, and the scientific discourse is being dictated by the king of people in secret cults that we don't even know about, that dictate the scientific dogma, they dictate the practices, they dictate the this, they dictate the that. And if they don't like you, you're not going to get treated, you're not going to get validated, you're not going to get uh, a chance to be alive, basically. So this is very problematic. This is, and the fact that the same person who decides if a child needs to be taken from their parents, if they are at risk, sozusagen, is the same person who will treat this child, and is the same person who will treat this child as they are adult and decide whether they take the children away or not. Okay, and this centralization of power, we want people to be able to communicate and people to be able to understand the junctures of life. But then when we have such centralization of the power, is a big problem. Okay, I'm not supposed to be concerned about just saying no to my therapist and walking out without that having implication. I didn't even envision that that could be. Okay, I didn't even think about this. And he was trained in the academia, and thinking how irrational of me it was to go to a therapist that was trained in the academia, and thinking that the fact that I manifest my therapy, try to manifest my therapy, to manifest, being listened to and healed and contained and whatnot. But I think what makes for, like, I really took responsibility over my healing. And then that happened. So that was 2019, which has its own astrology. These are, unfortunately, a lot of the things that can happen with Venus retrograde in Leo trining Eris in Aries. Okay, so or even the very personal experience, like one of the names that I mention a lot when I do my episodes and of colleagues that I listen to is Austin Kopak. Then I listen to him in some podcast saying something that's with along the words of toxic inclusivity, and I'm like, I don't know what he meant. I'm not going to assume that I know what he meant, but definitely it's kind of like Venus stationing, or Venus in her shade stationing to go retrograde, kind of thinking, okay, could this be that this person that I listen to all the time has values that I don't, not only do I not support, but is something that could be of a red flag for me? I don't know. Okay, and those kind of things that interlay with the public performance and the values we had about this. I can say, for example, about cancel culture. So from what I knew, being Israeli, is that we had people that were accused of molestation of teenagers and sex trafficking of teenagers continuing to perform as an artist. And like, this is insane. And when I go to America, I listen to, Darren Hayes, and Darren Hayes like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be canceled. I don't want to this, I don't want that. I'm like, why would you be canceled? And I realized that people are afraid of being canceled over things that have nothing to do. And maybe that's what was meant in toxic inclusivity. But I'm like, it's very difficult for me from my position to wrap my mind around, cancel culture being something that is, that we want to go against. Another way is there is this term in Hebrew is called nikur oris. Basically, when when the parents divorce, takes the children and basically drives them against the other parent. Okay, and so it's an existing problem in divorces. Unfortunately, a lot of couples do it, and this causes for a lot of trauma and a lot of complexities that everybody will be sorry for, later in their life if they leave. But the origins of the term, which is in Hebrew called nikur ori, okay, this like annihilating of the child, I don't know, it was invented by two researchers that were accused of pedophilia, and their child testified, okay, that they were, that there was pedophilia, that there was sex offense, it was acted out. And they invented this term so that the child will not be believed at court. And I know from people who are in the both in, in juristics and in therapy, that treat these children that were genuinely hurt, and those children are not believed, and they are kept with the sex offender parent. Okay? And so I don't believe that I understand the intricacy of that. And yes, I have another person in my Facebook that claims that the father of her children is a sex offender, and the child is being kept with the sex offender. And it's very terrifying. You definitely don't want to annihilate a parent, and on the one hand, but you also don't want to invalidate a child and deny them of rescue. And what kind of, what world are they growing into? Those are the type of things that Eris is going to put out there. Okay. And you can see how Venus going through Leo with her retrograde trining Eris is necessary for intense transformations and revolutions around the Venusian, and around the Venusian in this performative place, how we see women with or without a penis, how we see women, how we see relationships, how we see performing and the performing art, how our values associated with art, all of these things we are called to reconsider. Okay, just as I was speaking, I was like, oh, maybe that toxic inclusivity meant about a person not being at the right time at the right age and saying something and not even being educated, and then now they are canceled because of it. Again, then this is a problem. Okay, if it's not, they're not sex offenders, they're not this, they're not that, they're not slurring anybody, then this is a problem. Or maybe I'm being naive. Okay, maybe I just want to say, hey, this person that I was listening to and I really liked what they do, I really want to believe that they are not in a value position that puts me in a light that endangers my well-being. Okay, and this is exactly those intricacies. We're called to embrace this ambivalence. We're called to hold space for this confusion. We're called to be educated on what is now. And this will coincide, if I'm not mistaken, a Venus. Now we're already delving into the transits, a Venus Cosimi, which is Venus in the light of the sun. It will coincide Mercury ingressing into Leo. Okay, it will coincide another Venus Lilith. Okay, it will coincide a trining to Chiron. Lilith now trines Chiron, trining to Chiron. So rethinking also Lilith there, and the myths of Lilith, the points of Lilith, everything that Lilith signifies, the kidnapper of children, or the woman who was disagreeing to be taking her shine off for the man that she was with, was Adam. And we're going to have Venus squaring Uranus. So she was already squaring Uranus when she was direct. She's still in orb for that. Then she go back to squaring Uranus and back forward to squaring Uranus. So you can go back to your Venus square Uranus. I was looking at Venus square Uranus relations and like non-monogamy and or something unusual about the relations. So just the other day, I was watching a video in a channel that says Love Don't Judge. And the clickbait for this video was a woman kissing a woman. They're both in bride dresses. And one of the women's looks appears like a child. And it took me some time, but then I pressed on this clickbait and I saw that this woman who looks like a child was actually a woman, a grown adult woman who had a medical condition where she looked like a child. And so it was difficult for her, and her spouse, which was her makeup artist, and that's how they met, had all kinds of things thrown at her because people were thinking that she's being pedophile when she marries this woman who is an adult woman and has the appearance of a child. So for me, it was refreshing to see that this is a consensual, willingly consensual relationship between two adults. that is healthy and nourishing. So it was like, this is refreshing. When I think it's like, what the heck, but then it looks like, oh, it's okay. This is refreshing. So that can be a part of the Venus trine Eris, Venus square Uranus, unusual relationship. And this was the first time that I heard, I think it was different size relationship. I never heard of this term before. So I was like, oh, that's refreshing knowledge. So that can be the Venus Uranus kind of thingy. And again, when we hold the place for something to be unusual, that's okay. Yet there are the conflicts of when is something unusual and healthy, and when is something unusual. Shirley Hastrelin sex with her therapist back in 2019, actually not healthy. In retrospective, okay? So this is also part of the things that we are going to be dealing with. When is cancel culture healthy? A person that was accused and is guilty of human trafficking of teenagers that were his fans, still performing. And where is cancel culture unhealthy? An older person who is a performer and doesn't know the correct terms for everything, but does not intend, or does not, it's not like he's sexually harassing or anything like that. He's just saying the wrong term and is being canceled instead of educated. Okay. And notice also who is being canceled, who is not being canceled. Beyonce was not being canceled, even though there were many things that she had to correct and bring back to stage in her album. Okay, there was the Khalees thing where maybe she went one thing, Khalees saw it in another way, and then she just took it off. There was the Balenciaga. Then we had the like, who can expect this? Who can expect what happened with Balenciaga having a song and it's all about fashion and this and that and the Balenciaga and with a very beautiful song, and then we had the Balenciaga fiasco, which I think she didn't even bother to take it. She's like, she couldn't take it anymore probably. And there are other thing. I think with the kaka she kept. Kaka is feces also in Hebrew, but she didn't know it means something else in another language, and those things happen. Okay, Beyonce did not get canceled for that. Some other artists would be, and then it's like, where is this? Where are we being inclusive, and when are we being actually not inclusive? Because we try to assume that every person is educated and went through all the language and so and so, and we can be way more inclusive of people, but understanding that they just don't understand our language. It doesn't mean that they don't care about us, that they don't support us, that they don't hold space for us. Okay, so those conversations, but also when is this forgivingness already yields to it is because I'm a trans woman, and because I am trans and I see myself as a man who is at the performance of a woman, then I see myself in this way. And so you have to listen to my opinion that all trans people with a penis are men. I don't know. I don't. You can speak for yourself. This is where it's not Eyal Golan, but it's also not, she's not a human trafficker, but it's also like, no, this is not, I have and there's a song, a very old song, that's not very, but kind of old song called Deutsche Kauf nicht by Nazis. I recommend you to, it's worth, if you're studying German, and even if you're not, it's worth the listening. It really is about this. They only have another opinion. They make music. They make this. Die haben doch nur eine andere Meinung. Okay, they only have another opinion, and this is where we need to be cautious. Okay, when should we embrace divergence? We definitely should listen to people. We don't want people to hide their opinions and that. And where do these opinions already signify something else? Okay, so we're gonna get at the end, and when we are when we're doing it wrong, Eris is going to pop up and Uranus is going to pop up and show us, oh, but look at this from this angle. Oh, but look at it from that angle. Oh, but look at it from this angle. And it's a whole process of looking at it from many angles. And sometimes the solution is stupid. No, if your psychologist is sleeping with you, it doesn't matter in which dimension or energy it happens. Expect him to be violated. Like, this is a red flag, girl. Yeah? Sometimes it's stupid. It's like, dear darling, this is stupid. But here you must keep it stupid. And sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I was so silly thinking that, oh, because, I don't know. It's like, oh, let's take age gap in relationships, okay? So it's like, oh my God, I was so silly thinking that every person who has an age gap with someone is probably being abusive towards them, while in fact, some people's 7th house is ruled by Saturn. Saturn will only come to your 7th house, will only transit the 7th house every 28 years. If you had it in the 7th house, you're going to only be 28 when you can begin seriously dating someone. In many cases, it matures at 36. I don't know, like, how do you expect people to date their same age? Like, what if you have this like harsh, like me, I have Venus and Mercury opposing Pluto, okay? Definitely I will need a more tender partner in terms of the outer planets to inner planets relations. It's not going to be from my year, okay? So that can also be a situation where, like, oh my gosh, you have been thinking that, that parameter is what makes something abusive or not abusive all along, when it's completely another thing, okay? And sometimes, the fact that you thought that your therapist sleeps with you, that it may be yes, it's a problem, darling. This is a problem, darling. So, and my mom calling. So, which by the way knows about everything. So the thing is that those are the deeper types of appraisals. They can have to do with the Madonna horse thing that you think, oh, we're through this. We don't experience it anymore in society. It brings it again. It's just like, oh, in this way, you still think this way. In this way, if you think there is a decent man and indecent man, in this way, you still think this way. If you think there is a decent woman and indecent woman, in this way, you still think this way. And we all have it around, our lives. Even with offenders, like there is a context where a person becomes offender. There's a context to that. Nurture here plays a bigger role than we think. Yes, there is nature, but nurture here plays a bigger role than we think. Okay, we're probably not going to date only Superman. So what do we do to allow structures that support us being good people, right? And also we do want a person who is able to make a good choice and have the resources, without judgment, that has the resources to make a good choice in their lives, even when times are a bit strenuous. Okay, we also want to be that person. So I think I covered, and in terms of finance, people may rediscover the values of things they thought are frivolous. Like I just saw on a Venus Shade, I saw a video by a Silicon Valley girl. Okay, she's a Russian entrepreneur that sits in Silicon Valley and probably gets a lot of antagonism because of the cultural difference that she has no access to, and she's just doing the best she can within her means. So there's a lot of cultural shocks there, which is lovely to watch. And she was talking about some brand name of a bag, and she said, you probably wonder why people buy this bag. And she said, oh, well, you need to understand, to buy this bag, I need to have I need to spend this much money in this shop to be able to access this bag. And so when I buy this bag, the minute I made the purchase, the value of the bag rises up. And so now I can sell it and make money off of this bag, even if I don't like the design, even if I don't like this. This is valuable asset. So I will buy this brand because I can make money off of it. And right after this short, I saw a couple of shorts afterwards. I saw another short that by Rich BFF, and she said, brands are making profit off of you because the people who really have money, they don't invest in all these, like they're powerful enough to not to have to look rich. In fact, sometimes they even hide their, richness, so they can travel, in public transportation or whatnot. And yes, there are some wealthy people who do that. And what the brands profit off of is your desire to look rich, and then you buy all these things. But the actual rich people, they know that you are not really rich because you're only buying these things and getting into huge debts, while the influencer that promotes them does not really pay for them. They sometimes are even get paid to wear this, or who knows how much Beyonce got paid or not to say the name, before the fiasco, Balenciaga in her, Givenchy in her, whatnot, because this is publicity, and then you pay for the brand. So Rich BFF is right, and maybe Silicon Valley Girl is right. This is true, and this is true. So we're going to also view our investments in arts. Think about the Balenciaga fiasco. It's a stock going down. People burning their Balenciaga items, it's a stock going down. So those type of fashion crises, they can occur again. Yeah. What else are we going to have here? So let's just take a look at Venus retrograde, astro calendar, monthly astro calendar. Venus. So Mercury enters Leo tomorrow. Mercury ingresses into Leo tomorrow, so Venus will already be present with Mercury. Children might be a part of the fiasco. It will be coexisting with journalism, so visibility and journalism, cameras, paparazzi, but also scandals around children there can be, like sex offenders, not sex offenders, Balenciaga, not Balenciaga, stuff like that. So fashion, exploitation of children, or news around children or whatnot. And Mercury in itself can also be a big gender blender. So yeah. Venus squares Uranus. She turns retrograde on July 23rd. So not making any aspects, I see. And let's go to Venus in August. So Venus on August 8th already, Venus will conjunct Lilith. So this is the first aspect, the first hard aspect that she makes. And it will be on 23rd degree of Leo. Oh, Mercury will already be in Virgo. So Venus is co-present with Mercury in Leo, but until August 8th, Mercury is out of there. It knows what it's doing, but Mars will catches up to him in Virgo. But we're talking Leo now, Venus retrograde. So this Lilith conjunction trines Eris and squares Uranus. Prepare the popcorn. Like really. Prepare the popcorn and prepare the fact that you come here with the popcorn and you plan to be watching the show, but you're a part of the show. Okay. I'm trying to think about a concrete case in my life, because you don't bash people if it's considered bashing if you say it another. That I was preparing my popcorn, but ended up being a part of the viewers, a part of the participants. I don't know. Probably there was. Preparing my popcorn, but preparing to be a part of the participants. I don't know. Like, like in the Me Too era, I kind of I understood that stuff is going to be weird. So I was not even preparing the popcorn. Perhaps the person who was my friend then was preparing the popcorn, but he was writing the satire Like he was writing, we were writing something on a note together. So he was a part of this. He just didn't want his name there, and I'm like totally respected that. So yeah. And in fact, I caught fire for certain things that I adopted. It's my responsibility for putting them in the satire, but I caught fire um, for for adopting his ideas. So yeah, those kind of things. But here it can be like if you plan to just be observing, uh, it's very likely that you are part of the show. And so yeah, it's like you prepare the popcorn, but you're a part of the show, and so be prepared for that too. Okay, be prepared for that too. um yeah, next is the immediate square to Uranus, which I already addressed with the Lilith. Like this is a big, 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 dramatic, vulnerable, enraged display that is very authentic, and we must not underestimate that. Venus trines Chiron on August 14. So on August 8, Venus is already applying to trine Chiron, and it is in effect. On August 14, Venus trines Chiron, and she is applying to square Jupiter. This is already after Venus being here with the Sun. I don't know why did we not have the Venus like Kazemi. She was going through the Sun into that placement. So she's also conjuncting the Sun amidst those days, probably with a square to Uranus. So this is very much a tending to the wound, but having to change your beliefs. Like to tend to the wound, you have to change your beliefs about, again, the Venusian, about value, about women. I think, if I try to make a concrete case that will exemplify what this means, a story that tells something that of the essence of this transit. When I was like, meet a veteran, I didn't sue, and I said, and there was a part where I was told the defender thought that I want his money, and I was like, first of all, I didn't even know he had money. Like, it's not the case. Definitely, I will not go against a person who has money because they have like too much power in their hands. But I did know like that they had other power in their hands, and I said, okay, it's my privilege to speak up, and I speak up. But the thing is, it's not that I wouldn't speak up, or probably would. It was non-volitional. It's like, boom, I spoke up. That, which is also a funny thing, because a lot of offenders said, oh, what I did was non-volitional. It's like, me speaking up was non-volitional either. That's life. But the thing is, that I said, well, what I want is not like his money. I want an actual change that is structural. It's not even about him. I want to be able to make a life while making a living. I want to be able to have will and consent in my life. I want to be able to say yes to things. In essence, this is what it is. I want to be able to say yes to things and be whole with that. And for that to be real and nurturing and safe and good. Okay, like I said yes to my psychologist at the time, that was not nourishing and good. Okay, and that was me trying to practice where is my yes point. And I was like, okay, that was probably not the yes point. But the thing is that the more I've kind of like grown and learned, I was like, the fact that I don't want money from him does not mean that I don't need land, that I don't need housing, that I don't need that being provided to me as I am recovering. Because right now, even if I found like this sacred strategy where I can make a life while making a living, it would probably contribute to my healing and to my ability to do stuff recovered, which I desire. However, because I'm in this situation now, I do need to rest. Like even if even if Prince Charming was there, I would probably need to rest a while before I can have an actual relationship. Or even if work, Prince Charming career was there and all the opportunities, I would probably need to settle into myself and kind of like not really do anything, or do other stuff like growing my plants or whatnot on my own land in my own house, because I would need to not have to communicate with anyone at any point right now. Okay, so it came from this position where no, I don't want that to come from the offender. That being said, our wealth is held by offenders and is invested in offenders. Okay, and that is a problem because we actually do need to take the wealth back. Okay, not to leave them with nothing, but definitely to leave them in a situation where they won't hurt anyone, but will still have a desire to live in a meaningful life, in a life that is actually respectful of themselves and of other people. Okay, so the wealth is coming from somewhere. Okay, so this is a situation. And the whole point is that I want to be able to make a life while making a living independently of the wealth of the offender. Okay, so that is true, and 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 that is okay. I'm reading like this book about like commitment, in history of commitments or whatnot. And I learned by TikTokers, not TikTokers, shorts on YouTube, but they did it on TikTok, of Muslim couple, and they educated people about Muslims and so on. And they said in Islam, when a man marries a woman, he has to give her land. She will not tell him of her bank account, of her wealth. She has to have her own separate wealth. So if something happens to him, she is still safe. She has her land, she has her home, she has ability to provide for the children for whatever, and he cannot ever even ask what is in her bank account. Okay, of course it's not necessarily being respected across the board, but this is something that I was like, in Judaism people call this nedunya, where the family of the husband gives money to the wife, and so they buy the wife supposedly. It's going to be considered as a business transaction. That being said, another point of view is that to be able to divorce a person, to be able to say no to someone, you really need to have a place to be that you're safe at and have your own wealth, where you can't really work right now. If what you're doing is mainly growing the children, of course you need your own wealth, not only to grow the children, but to be a decent human being. You do need leverage. Okay, and this is like completely revolutionizing the way I would think about assets, or the way I would think about money. Or even stuff like thinking that my welfare comes from taxpayers. And I'm so glad that I supported taxpaying when I was younger, realizing that my taxations do not do what they're supposed to do. They do not help people to say no to violence. Like, I'm lucky and privileged that I am where I am right now. But other than that, they do not do that. And what they do looks more like what my grandfather escaped from in the Second World War, and that my taxes are basically my dividends from my work. I paid certain taxes. It has compound interest when the state invests it, rather to each and every one of us as individuals would invest it, however rich and wealthy we are, even like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. We just don't have that much wealth. And then when we are relying on welfare, it gets to us by compound interest. Okay, like, oh, and now I have another worry. It's like, what is this money? Like, how did this compound interest come into being? And so it's not like, oh, the person's like, me wanting to be on the taxpayer side, so I'm like returning the favor, rather than, okay, that means that this compound interest is basically built on certain industries that exploit people, and how do we create wealth in a way that is ethically sourced, that supports our well-being. It's not like on the account of somebody, dying or being child trafficked or being this, and me investing my money through the government without me even knowing about this. And I wasn't, people say BlackRock. Yes, it's true, but it's not just BlackRock. I was in an investment company. It had something to do with Eagle, and that they were investing the money of very, very big customers in the private and public sector, a government, and they don't expose what they do. It's our 401ks. It's the taxes that you pay. When I get welfare and I get it into my postal bank, okay, work with postal bank. This is what you do when you have welfare. So I get this to my postal bank. There is VAT, okay, that I pay. It's not a lot of money, okay, but you got 6 million paying that. It's 6 million. It's 12 million. It's some money that you can invest and get compound interest, okay, which is not a bad rationale. If I knew that that's sourced ethically, I'd be happy to pay that VAT. I'd be thankful that even when I receive money from my own dividends or taxpayer or whatnot, I am also contributing to the economy, even when I sit in my bed and cannot lift up a pencil. Like, it's not bad for me to know that if that was true. But the thing is, do not delude yourself to think that you're not paying taxes when you receive money from the government, because you do. You pay for health insurance. And what happens when you need help? Yeah, that's for another video. And those things about value, how it performs, how it compounds, how it is, how it that, when Venus touches Jupiter, when Venus touches Uranus, we think about it's like this. Oh, it's like that. Oh, it's like that. Oh, it's like that. Oh, how do we, and then we get educated times billion. So I would not say that this transit is only about hearing from your exes or rebranding or performing or rethinking this concept in public discourse. It is deep, it is profound, it touches on Eris, it touches on Uranus, it touches on Jupiter. Anybody, this is already the zeitgeist. We are all going to be affected. And this one, we are all, because of the trine to Eris, which is a planet, we are all going to be affected. Because of the square to Uranus. Okay, Uranus to a lesser extent. Uranus can be like a Balenciaga thingy. It's like, if you're not a part of this show, then you're just bringing the popcorn or burning if you have Balenciaga. I did not have Balenciaga item, so it's like, okay, I did not know that's what happened in fashion industry. But it's not like this is the meat and potatoes of child trafficking. It's like is way more intricate and way worse. So with this, Lilith conjunct Venus, retrograde, square Uranus, trine Chiron, squares Jupiter, trines Eris, and Cassini, what we know as Venus, we will not be able to recognize ourselves, our relationships, our values, our appearance, our finances in September. I think even the Me Too era was not even the tip of the iceberg of what is going to be in this summer. Okay. And again, this is all happening with Venus up until 17th July. Venus is ruling Rahu. Now she's ruling Ketu. Okay. So from there, she's ruling already Ketu. Although we don't have an eclipse point, which is triggering these nodes, we still have an invisible shift in energies. Add to that, Venus is probably going to be visible. So I want to wrap this episode up with, I think this is the last aspect. So set the square to Jupiter. Let's have a chart for it. Oh, and we have some in September probably. It's 22 August. Jupiter on my sun, thank you very much, with Venus squaring it. And then let's go It's retrograde through the whole month. So let's go to September. And Venus, at least Mercury trines Jupiter on September 4. That's all I'm saying. But then it goes retrograde. So September 17. Okay. I'm not done yet. It's not done yet. September 17, Venus is squaring Jupiter retrograde. So Jupiter now goes retrograde, which again will contribute to revising our beliefs around that which is feminine. So it's supportive of the mayhem. That's how I would describe it. Yeah, and she sextiles, a falling Mars. Fine. But this is where Venus is already direct. So when is she going direct? September 4, she's going direct. I don't have a chart for her going direct. Why not? Let's see. No, I'm not complaining. Very appreciative of this app. Just like, okay, September 4, she's going direct. So I'm going to pick at it from Mercury. So Venus is direct in 12 degrees Leo, conjuncting lot of fortune. I don't know what it means on a mundane world, because the lots are relevant for a zodiac releasing. I don't know if this conjunction of a lot has a meaning on a mundane level. Pars Fortuna, perhaps. I know Raquel, I don't remember, she was doing stuff with Pars Fortuna, but also with Lilith, but yeah. Venus. The moon is squaring this, and Venus will be applying to square Jupiter again. So she turns direct. Now, Venus turning direct, a planet turning direct. Yes, the energy is going to be moving a bit faster, but is still in the aftermath of things. Okay, so until Venus reaches like really the 29th degree, 28th degree of Leo, she's not out of her shade period. Okay, the world is still weird. Don't get married, don't get committed. And if you have purchases that you can postpone, this is a good time to do so. So September 17, she squares Jupiter again, then she trines Chiron September 23, and she squares Uranus in September 29. And this is already a retrograde Uranus. So this is the 22nd degree. So she's going to square Uranus on the 22nd degree in September 29. Okay, we're almost in October. We're almost at the eclipse. So we're going to basically go to Venus is out of her shade period, and boom, we have an eclipse on the Libra Eris axis. That's not to be ignored, because even the eclipse, I don't remember if the eclipse is in Eris Libra or if the eclipse is in Taurus Scorpio, but anyway, Venus will be ruling Keto, which is in Libra. So that's the intricacy here. Lilith on the 29th degree. 22nd degree, this is a point of concern. This is where we can have our, trans women shooters, mass shooters. This is where, things can go, especially with Mars here in the Venus sign. Things can go balloonies, and it's a very excited energy, very exciting for the nervous system energy. It's not just dangerous for women, it's dangerous for everyone around them too. So, and it's definitely dangerous for the economy. Okay, this is definitely, it can be a skyrocketing of something, or a downfall. Like, I can't predict. With the 22, something is being killed there. So I don't know what, but that is, we're definitely going to have provocative art, perhaps bloody, and so on and so forth. So this is September, and she's already direct in September 15. If we go just a tiny bit into October, we'll see her out of her shade period. She enters Virgo on October 9. Before that, she trines the nodes, conjuncts Lilith, and then, the opposition to Saturn will already be from Virgo. So let's take a look at the degrees here. Well, when she trines the nodes, Venus is in 25th degree. This is where she finishes shade period. Okay, nodes. And look how fast they are moving versus how slow they are moving right now. Okay. The nodes are 25 degrees respectively of Eris and Libra, and Venus in 25 degrees in Leo. This is her very fated coming out of the underworld. This is where Inanna did the Ereshkigal experience initiation, and now she is rising. I don't remember if she's rising as an evening star or a morning star. So this also has to do with Kazimi's here. So it's supposed to be that now we have Inanna, now we have Aphrodite. But if we leave Ereshkigal and Inanna meets for a while and focus on the astrology, this is a very, very informed, incredibly transformed Venus that gets out of her shade period while she's trying not only the nodes but Eris in Aries. Okay? The moon will not be triggering this point until a day or two after, but this is a trigger point, and this is a decreasing moon, so definitely some big culmination is up now. Venus is already ruling Ketu. There's a great purging, a great release of the old self in here. Lilith is already in Virgo. Summertime. Lilith is on Regulus at this point. Okay. And Saturn is retrograde all the way to 1 degree Pisces, which means that Lilith opposes Saturn, and Venus is already applying to oppose Saturn. Now, do you want to see the Venus opposition Saturn? No, she's already on Regulus, and the Venus conjunct Lilith. Yeah, Venus conjunct Lilith on Regulus. Okay, I'm finishing up. So Venus conjunct Lilith on Regulus, and she's already applying to oppose Saturn. So Venus will be on Regulus. That is the star, that is the fixed star of the crown, taking the crown, with Lilith opposing Saturn. This is when she comes out of her shade period. It's not an easy time. Now, I will have to finish this episode because this amount of calls could be something on the news. So I just want to kind of wrap it up with the whole Venus retrograde. I don't think all we'll be seeing is rebranding and wondering what dress to wear tonight with this, with this Venus retrograde. I haven't watched nearly any of my colleagues who posted. I know Victor did a video. I will definitely be watching that. Haven't watched it yet. Maren Altman probably did or is doing, and I'm not sure. She was speaking about the square to Uranus, but that's more like relationship drama breaking up. But on a mundane level, this is big, and this is only the beginning of it. Even when Venus comes out of her shade period, like Venus conjunct Lilith on Regulus square in Saturn. I'm not even going to attempt at trying to delineate it now. So all while she's separating from a trine to Eris. It's one of those times. It's one of those times. It's very confusing. That's very provocative. We are going to allow ourselves to be transformed, as well as being able to say, "Oh my gosh, that was stupid," but it will take a while till we will understand when were we being really stupid and when were we being stupid to believe that we were being stupid. So that's just life, and I'll leave you with that. Thank you for watching.